Hey guys, Kate and I Master here. So I've been watching Sniping is Fun's various video game collection videos, GameCube Collection, Nintendo 64 Collection, PlayStation Collection. So I'd figured I'd go ahead and do the same, seeing as how I don't really post videos that often. It's like a month or two in between each Remember video I do, and then an update video in between those, talking about future Remember videos. So I went ahead, figured to tide you guys over, I'm gonna start showing off my gaming collection. First off, I apologize for the lighting in this video. I'm relying on my really crappy iMac built-in camera for this. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and start with my GameCube collection. I would have started with my Nintendo 64 collection. The thing with that though is my Nintendo 64 and all my games are at my parents' house. Since my brother's home, so I went ahead and left the Nintendo 64 with him so he could play. Because he always complains about, Andy, why'd you have to take the Nintendo 64 with you? So anyways, it was a nice treat for him. But anyways, go ahead and start with, and I would have started with the Nintendo 64 collection since that was the first console I ever owned. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and start with the GameCube collection. The GameCube was the second console I ever owned. Unfortunately, I don't own my GameCube anymore. Mine broke. I actually had two different ones. My first one broke. The second one, I have no idea what happened to it. So I play all my GameCube games on my Wii. I got my GameCube for Christmas in 2001. I begged and begged for it. It was the next Nintendo console, and I loved the Nintendo 64, and I was begging for a GameCube. It was my most wanted gift, along with this first game that I was ever owned, Luigi's Mansion. You can see that right here. Luigi's Mansion, the first game I ever owned. Luigi is actually my favorite Mario character. I would always play as him in Mario Party 2 whenever my brother and I would play that. Any Mario sports game, I'd play as Luigi. Luigi was my favorite character, and it was actually my favorite video game character for a long time. I'd even gone as Luigi for Halloween that year. I bought the issue of Nintendo Power at Blockbuster, and they were showing off all the new GameCube games, and the one they were really promoting was Luigi's Mansion. I was like, oh my gosh, a Luigi game! So I was so excited for it, and I got it for Christmas. For some stupid reason, Nintendo didn't provide a memory card with the console. You had to buy it separately. And I never understood why they didn't just pack a memory card with the console. So for the first couple weeks we had the GameCube, we couldn't save any of our game data because we didn't have a memory card. So eventually my dad went out and bought one. It actually took me a couple weeks to finally beat this game because, of course, at 8 years old, I didn't understand game strategy. I never understood how to beat game bosses. Even though I had the guidebook, the player's guide, the official player's guide, it took me several weeks to finally get through it, but when I finally beat it, I think it was probably the first game I ever played and beat. So that was extremely exciting when I finally beat King Boo, when I had tried days and days. Nowadays, whenever I play through this, I usually play through this game at least once a year. Still love every minute of it. It only takes me a couple days to beat it. Still probably one of my favorite Mario games, one of my favorite games on the GameCube, definitely. Now, this is not actually my original copy of Luigi's Mansion, as you can see with the player's choice. I'm not sure what happened to my original copy. I either traded it in for some reason, because I got kind of caught up in the trading games thing once I discovered it. Not as much as my brother, which I'll get into later. But yeah, I either traded it in or lost it somewhere around the house, and I was never able to find it. I may have, because we actually moved houses. My family and I moved houses in 2005. And I may have lost my original copy in the when we moved. But whatever happened to it, this is not my original copy. Obviously, this is the player's choice. My original copy I got for Christmas in 2001 when the game had first come out. Now, the other game that I got on Christmas Day, well, technically it was my sister's. It was her Christmas present, was Pikmin. Unfortunately, I no longer own my copy of Pikmin. I never understood it as a kid. I never appreciated it as a kid. At some point, gradually, I've added more and more to my GameCube collection. Um, Over the past couple years, whether I buy them on Amazon. I've been going to MagFest since 2014 every year for the past 3 years, and every year they have a marketplace. They sell a bunch of games, and I usually buy a bunch of games at MagFest every year to add to my collection. Pikmin I've never re-added. The moment I discovered trading in at at first at Blockbuster, I don't know if any of you remember this, Blockbuster, when that was still around, they had trade-ins. They had trade-ins to compete with GameStop, and we would trade in. My brother and I would trade in our games at Blockbuster, the ones that we wouldn't play anymore. And of course, I traded in Pikmin because I didn't like it as a kid. I regret that decision. Wish I still had the game because it really was a great game. I just could never appreciate it as a kid. So, but this next one, the granddaddy of them all, Super Smash Bros. Melee. My dad was going to buy it for me for Christmas. The only problem was my mom wouldn't let him because it was rated T. That was during the days before the E10 rating was released. That period of 4 years at the beginning of the sixth generation, where there was no E10 rating, the gaming graphics were getting more realistic, the violence was getting more realistic, and it was like the ESRB, for whatever reason, if it had a shred of violence in it, even if it was like as silly as like this game was, immediately it's rated T. My dad saw gameplay footage. He's like, "Yeah, this game shouldn't have been rated T." Of course, my mom wouldn't let him buy it for us. My dad, like, as far as like games and like, my dad was a lot more lenient than my mom. So like my dad was more likely to let us rent or buy T-rated games than my mom was. We weren't allowed to play M-rated games. We weren't even allowed to watch them until I was in my teens. Super Smash Bros. Melee, played this a lot as a kid. I do think it's a little overrated. For its time, it was amazing. Like the leap from the original to Melee was incredible at the time. Like, nobody had seen such a jump. You go from 12 characters in the original to 25 characters, so much more unlockables. I will say the stages in this game, Melee by far, out of any of the Smash games, has the best set of stages. And it's a shame that they've never, the very best stages like Fourside, Great Bay, Fountain of Dreams. Others are kind of, I can't come up, they're not coming to mind right now. Oh, Mushroom Kingdom 2, Princess Peach's Castle have never been brought back in Brawl or SSB4. It's usually just a set of Melee stages that were brought back from Brawl, like a portion of those were brought back in the Wii U and 3DS versions. I definitely had the best set of stages, had loads of fun with this game. I do think Brawl and SSB4 are superior to it. I do think this game is a little overrated, but it's still a lot of fun nonetheless. So many great memories with this, so many great memories. And now for a long time, me being 8 years old when the GameCube came out, about to turn 9, we didn't buy games that often. Usually, if I got a new game, it was a birthday present or a Christmas present. My brother, sister, and I, we got $2 a week allowance. Yeah, $2 a week allowance. We would get paid for report cards, like but at the time we only got like $1 for each A. We got paid to read books actually. We would get paid a penny a page. And if we mowed the lawn, we would get paid. Saving up money took a while, so we didn't buy our own games, but we did go to Blockbuster a lot. One of the first GameCube games I ever rented was Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. This was my introduction to Sonic the Hedgehog, the first Sonic game I ever played. This will always hold a special place in my heart. It is my favorite. I do think this is the best 3D Sonic game. A lot of people will differ. I have heard that the GameCube port of Sonic Adventure 2 was inferior to the original Dreamcast version. It's kind of a polarizing opinion of which version was better. Of course, I've never played the original Dreamcast version, but loads of memories with this. I can still pick this up and play it any time, and I will still love this game no matter what. fan opinion of this game has gone down. Like, there's a lot of revisionist history where people will say, "Oh, Sonic never worked in 3D." Of course it did. It worked with Adventure 1 and 2. Like, really, in my opinion, the only truly terrible main 3D Sonic games was Sonic 06. Sonic Boom, by the way, was a spin-off. It's not part of the main series. Yeah, I rented this game a lot. Loved this game. Finally got it for Christmas in 2002. Anyways, loads of fun. I should probably move on. I have a bunch more games to go through. Mario Party 5. I might as well talk about all the Mario Party games on the GameCube. This is the only one I still own. I did own... You know how there are a lot of gamers out there, they have to buy every single Madden game, every single Call of Duty game. I was the kid that had to buy every single Mario Party game every year. Mario Party, for the longest time, was my favorite game series. But yeah, I will say Mario Party 5 was the best Mario Party game on the GameCube. Not as good as any of the Nintendo... Well, I will say it's better than the original Mario Party. But, like, not as good as Mario Party 2 or 3. 4, 6, and 7, I do not care... Well, 4 was fun. 6 and 7 I do not care for. Both those Mario Parties were just repetitive. See, Mario Party suffered from what I like to call Tony Hawk syndrome. You know how with Tony Hawk, it was like the first 4 Pro Skater games, Underground 1 and 2 were, and then Underground 1 and 2 were fantastic. But like American Wasteland onward, they just got progressively worse and worse. This was kind of the deal with Mario Party. A new Mario Party game came out every year. The first 3, everyone usually agrees were the best 3. I disagree with the first one, but 2 and 3, in my opinion, were the best. And then 4 was not as good as the first 3. For a long time, Mario Party 4 was fucking hated. Like, I remember, like, going on internet forums in 2004 when Mario Party 6 was coming out. Like, nobody had a nice thing to say about Mario Party 4. Like, everybody hated Mario Party 4. They were like, it's the worst game in the series. Obviously, it's a lot more appreciated now. Obviously, I traded it into Play and Trade years ago. I'm still on Mario Party 5, in my opinion, the best GameCube Mario Party game. 6 and 7, 6 onward, they got progressively worse. Like, 6 was okay. They got rid of story mode and replaced it with solo mode, which wasn't as good. The boards weren't as good. Mario Party 7, kind of the same deal. And it was just, it just felt like the same thing as 6. Mario Party 8, I mean, the motion sensing was cool at the time. In my opinion, 8 was superior to 6 and 7. If not just for, like, the Tycoon Town board. The single player was a little better. As I'm getting off track, actually, I'll hold off on the other Mario Parties until I get to my Wii collection. So yeah, this was a lot of fun. I picked it up, I played it again recently. Did a board playthrough recently. Still a lot of fun. Mario Kart Double Dash. I got this for Christmas in 2003. Even has the bonus disc, as you guys can see there. And what I loved about the bonus disc was because I had the demo for Sonic Heroes. This game was awesome at the time. In my opinion, Mario Kart in general gets progressively better with each installment. Mario Kart 8 is by far the best in the series so far, but this one is definitely very unique. Definitely a leap from Mario Kart 64. It more than doubled the roster of that game. Mario Kart 64 and Super Circuit each had 8 kart racers. This one had a total of 20. The 2 characters per kart, 2 characters per racer. That was a very unique thing that they've never brought back. So this game's always fun to go back to. I spent hours on this game as a kid. I haven't played it in a while. I think the last time I played it was at MagFest. They had the LAN thing set up. Like, this was technically the first GameCube game the very first Nintendo game with online play via LAN connection. You could connect two GameCubes via an LAN adapter, two TVs, and you could have up to 8 people play on one game. So it was just, the only time I ever got to experience LAN adapter was at MagFest. But anyways, this was loads of fun. Kart tracks in this game were incredible. Um, some of my favorites included the Dino Jungle. I think that's what it's called. DK Mountain, of course, was awesome. Wario Coliseum, and of course Rainbow Road, as always. Pokemon Coliseum. I bought this at the Circle Center Mall in downtown Indianapolis when I was 10. Well, actually, I think I would have been 11 by then. This came out in early 2004 for North America. It was out in 2003 in Japan. But anyways, I remember the commercials. I won't post them here because I don't want to get a copyright strike on my video. But if you remember the whole who can save the Pokemon theme in all the commercials, you got to save all the Pokemon. Got to save them all. And of course, I was hooked. I was already hooked by the previews that I had seen. The first ever console Pokemon RPG. Now, when I first played this game, I was like, what? You can't catch all the Pokemon? You can only catch Shadow Pokemon? And I was fucking pissed when I found out about that initially. You can only catch Shadow Pokemon? You can't catch Wild Pokemon? Of course, at first I was upset. But then once I actually played it more, I was hooked. Just the wow factor of playing Pokemon, a fully 3D Pokemon game on a console. I can still come back to this game any day. I did a playthrough of this a couple years ago. I actually played through all the Pokemon games in chronological order, although it's kind of questionable whether Colosseum and XD count in the Pokemon chronology, with the main handheld series. But anyways, Pokemon Colosseum, loads of fun. Especially loved that you could trade between the console Pokemon games and the handhelds. So that was a lot. That was a cool feature. There was an adapter that Nintendo officially released. You could plug in your Game Boy Advance into an adapter, and you could plug the adapter into one of the controller slots. You could do multi-battle, double battles. You could do mount battle with You could actually do mount battle with your Pokemon team from Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Fire Red, or Leaf Green. It was a lot of fun, I will say. It was amazing. Donkey Konga, one of the first music-based games that I played. My dad, brother, and I went to Best Buy one day in early 2004, and Best Buy had Donkey Konga set up. And then my brother and I played it, and it was just so cool. We just had loads of fun playing it at Best Buy. And then my dad saw it. He thought it was really cool, so he went ahead. And it was one of those rare occasions where he decided to buy a game for us. We didn't even have to pay for it with our own money, at least in my memory. But I played this a lot. Played this for hours and hours and hours. It was loads of fun. The bongos, loved playing with the bongos. One of my most played games on the GameCube by far. As a kid, I don't think I've played this game in nearly a decade. Although I would love to get back into it. Never played Donkey Konga 2, though I'm assuming Donkey Konga 2 was just as much fun as the first one. Unfortunately, Donkey Konga 3 was never released here, and that was frustrating, but oh well. Sonic Heroes. This was one of the first games I got super hyped for. Now, I might as well talk about Sonic Adventure DX here. I don't have Sonic Adventure DX anymore. I do not remember what happened to it. I can't remember if I traded it in or just lost it around the house somewhere. But I no longer own Sonic Adventure DX, which was the GameCube port of the original Dreamcast Sonic Adventure. From what I've heard, it wasn't well ported. The Dreamcast version was far superior than the GameCube port. I still had a lot of fun with it. I wish I still had it. So yeah, my first exposure to this was obviously with the bonuses that came with the with Mario Kart Double Dash. This game is very polarizing. A lot of people love it. A lot of people hate it. I loved it. I loved the 3-character team structure. I will say it's not as good as Sonic Adventure 2. but this is still a lot of fun. It felt a lot like Sonic Adventure, except you're playing as three characters. I loved the team dynamics. I've never beaten this game, unfortunately. Um, it's just one of the drawbacks was you pretty much had to play through the game 4 times to get the final story. Soul Calibur 2. Now, I had first played this at a friend's house, um, at a friend's sleepover party. He had Soul Calibur 2 on the GameCube, and we played through that, and I was hooked. Like, I loved the game, like, loved playing as Link, loved all the characters in this, Mitsurugi, Raphael, Yoshimitsu. And then I rented it several times. My mom hated that I rented it, because Ivy said strangle. And of course, my mom, being the very conservative Christian, was like appalled by this. Had loads of fun with it. I later traded it in after I got Soul Calibur 3. This is not the original copy I owned. Like, I later bought it. After I had gotten Soul Calibur 3 on the PS2, I traded this in, and of course regretted it. And last year I rebought this on Amazon. Haven't played it a lot. Like, Weapon Master, I do think Soul Calibur 3 was a little better than this, but this had Weapon Master mode, if I'm naming that correctly. The ability to play as Link on the GameCube version, of course, is a plus, although apparently he's one of the worst characters, according to a lot of fighting fanatics. I'm not a huge fighting game guy. Um, I'm into Super Smash Brothers and Soul Calibur, and that's about it. Pokemon Channel. Now, originally when I saw this in Nintendo Power, I wrote this off, and I'm like, a game where you're just watching TV? What's the point of it? And then we went to Blockbuster one day. We went to Blockbuster on a practically weekly basis, it seemed, and I rented this game because I was curious about it, and I actually find this is actually quite addicting. It was a spiritual successor to Hey You Pikachu, which, by the way, Hey You Pikachu fucking sucked. I eventually did buy it. Of course, it's a good time waster. I wouldn't consider it like a top 10, top 20, or even a top 20, even a top 30 GameCube game. But it's still, for what it is, it's fun. It's a good time waster. Definitely a lot better than Hey You Pikachu. Mario Power Tennis. I can't remember when I got it. I think I got it for Christmas in 2004. But, definitely, in my opinion, the best Mario Tennis game. Nothing has ever topped it. Like, granted, there have only been two actually three. There were two that preceded. There was Mario Tennis on the Nintendo 64 and the Game Boy Color counterpart. Then there was the Game Boy Advance Mario Tennis Power Tour, the Game Boy Advance counterpart to this game. And then there was Mario Tennis Open on the 3DS. And of course the most recent, Mario Tennis Ultra Smash on the Wii U. I've never played any of those, but from what I can tell, those aren't as good. Like, I heard, like, Ultra Smash, they got rid of the tournament mode, which was like a key feat, which is like the key feature. How can you have Mario Tennis without tournament mode? That is like the most essential part of the single player. It's really just a Mario Tennis simulator. So in my opinion, this still holds up as the best Mario Tennis game. Mario Tennis on the Nintendo 64. I was actually playing that just yesterday. Of course, that one's still great, but like Mario Power Tennis took what was already great about the original Nintendo 64 version. Well, actually, technically, the original version was on the Virtual Boy, but we're not gonna go there. But like, it took everything that was great about the N64 version and improved upon it tenfold. The offensive and defensive power shots. This was just loads of fun. No Mario Tennis game has topped this. This is by far the definitive Mario Tennis experience. Animal Crossing on the GameCube. Now, this was actually my brother's game. It had been out for a couple years at that point, but we had never played it. We just were never interested in playing it. And and it was a stupid reason. One of the reasons we didn't want to buy it was because it has Nintendo 64 graphics, and the reason for that was because this was originally a Nintendo 64 game in Japan, and then it was ported to the GameCube, and then we got the GameCube port localized here. So one of my brother's best friends from childhood, At the time, I was 11. My brother was 9 and a half. One of his best friends came over one day, and he brought Animal Crossing, and he shows us this game, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, it looks like an awesome game!" And he let us borrow it for a few days. And after he took it back, my brother went out and bought his own copy of the game. I'm pretty sure this is my brother's copy. He may have traded in his copy, and I bought my own copy later on. The thing with my brother was that when we learned about trading in games at Blockbuster, my brother went through this phase where he had to trade in every single game that he didn't play anymore. I'll go more into that later when I talk about games that I no longer own on the GameCube that I had at one point, but I no longer own. And a lot of that was because of my brother's trade-in phase. So it was Animal Crossing, a great time waster. Loved it at the time. Still, even after its three successors, Wild World, City Folk, and New Leaf. New Leaf, in my opinion, is the best. In my opinion, each Animal Crossing has gotten progressively better. Um, not counting the spin-offs. I don't care about the Animal Crossing Card Party or whatever that's called, that game. Yeah, I don't care to play that. There's just something about the original GameCube Animal Crossing that no other Animal Crossing game has been able to recapture. And a lot of that was probably because you could travel between towns via the memory cards. Like if you could have one file saved, town saved on one memory card, another saved on another memory card, and you could travel between the towns, and that was really cool. Of course, you have that later with like the Wi-Fi, but it just wasn't exactly the same. Like traveling on the train to go to the other town and then come back, but it was just. Yeah, I spent hours on this. It was a great time waster. I don't know why. It's pretty much just Lord Jackal and I were talking about this one day. He's like, this is pretty much just chores the game. And he's right, it is just chores the game, but it's somehow really addicting. Like, I gotta check on my town. This next one, Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door. My brother and I had the original Paper Mario on the Nintendo 64. Loved the game, and he and I had been hoping for a Paper Mario 2, and then lo and behold, in Nintendo Power, I find out they're making a Paper Mario 2. Of course, later retitled The Thousand Year Door, but still it's the sequel. This is my favorite Paper Mario game in the series. Never played Sticker Star. Played a little bit of Super Paper Mario. Actually played quite a bit of Super Paper Mario. I think I got about halfway through it, but I just never liked it as much as this one or the original. This is my favorite game in the series. I know there's another Paper Mario coming out. I might check that out. But like favorite game in the series, the storyline was it's like you take the storyline of Paper Mario and this one just blows it out of the water. Like this one it is just so much darker. The atmosphere is just so much darker. It's like a whole new world that you're going to. Um, the Twilight Town segment, one of the creepiest that Mario has ever seen. The Shadow Queen, one of the probably the creepiest main villain in the Mario series. I think I've only beaten it once, but I've done several playthroughs of it. But this game was loads of fun. Loved every single minute of it. The party members, the bosses, so memorable. Yeah, the areas were memorable. The party members were memorable. Memorable. The bosses were memorable. Great game. By far my favorite in the series. Super Mario Sunshine. I did not buy this at launch. My brother had rented it, and we played. We played it. We loved it. But we didn't buy it for until maybe like a year after the GameCube, until probably a year after the Wii had come out. But like I remember having fun with this game. I bought this at GameStop. I know the evil GameStop. I've done rants on it, rants on GameStop before. Still hate GameStop, by the way. But yeah, I've never beaten this game. Among the 3D Mario platformers, I don't think this is as good as Super Mario 64 or Galaxy, but still a great Mario platformer. The flood mechanic, um, cleaning the environment, was very unique about it, and I don't know why. It's just I love that aspect of the game, and they've never brought it back. And I hope they never bring it back because that's what made this game just so unique and one of the reasons why you can come back and play through it again. Unfortunately, I've never beaten it. But yeah, this was definitely a lot of fun for me personally. I know a lot of people harp on it, and I agree it's not as good as 64 or Galaxy, but it's still a lot of fun. Amazing Island, this is another game that I had rented. Actually, a game I had rented several times, but I didn't actually own it until a couple years ago. And I rented this game during a particularly dark time in my life. It was during my 5th grade year, probably my worst year in public school, one of my toughest years, and I rented this game during that time. I loved creating characters. What got me to want to rent this game though was the segment in Nintendo Power on this game, like where they had you could make your own. You could make Charlie Brown or Optimus Prime or the Kool-Aid Man. Um, I did create Charlie Brown. I never created Kool-Aid Man or Optimus Prime or any of the other characters, but like I had lots of fun creating my own creatures. Now I haven't gotten around to actually playing this game since I bought it off Amazon a couple years ago. But still, I would love to get back into it. My backlog is incredible. It's just unfortunately with college and other stuff like that, and my Remember videos, I just don't have a lot of time to play games. Definitely playing more games now than I was like a few years ago. There was actually a time during my junior and senior years of high school and my freshman year of college where I wasn't playing a lot of video games. Mega Man Network Transmission. This was another great game that I had rented a couple times at Blockbuster when the game had first come out. This particular copy I didn't get. I bought at MagFest last year in 2015. It was the second year I went. But yeah, I haven't gotten around to playing it since I bought it at MagFest. But still, from what I can remember, this game was different, but it was still a lot of fun. It mixed the platforming elements of the classic Mega Man series and Mega Man X with the RPG elements of Mega Man Battle Network, with the battle chips. It was challenging, but I still had a lot of fun with it, especially since I actually I remember the Mega Man NT Warrior anime, that they only dubbed the first 2 seasons for some reason, but I remember watching the NT Warrior anime and playing this game, and it was a lot. I just had a lot of fun with it. Hopefully I will get back into it at some point. Again, my backlog is just incredible. Digimon Rumble Arena 2. Huge Digimon fan. Now, the Digimon games in general aren't as good as the Pokemon games. Digimon Rumble Arena was one of the things that Digimon did what Pokemon is only doing now with a Pokemon fighting game. My brother and I had Rumble Arena 1 on the PS1, and we loved that game. Rumble Arena 2 was even better. Because now it could support up to 4 players. It was kind of a rip-off of Super Smash Bros. Melee. I mean, the gameplay was just completely overhauled from Rumble Arena 1, where with Rumble Arena 1, you played as a rookie Digimon, and you filled up a meter, and you would Digivolve it temporarily to Mega level, and once the meter was out, you go back to rookie level. And this one, it's more like, each Digimon has 3 Digivolution stages. Their first stage, which is usually their rookie stage, their second stage, which is usually their champion stage, and the third stage, which for some was Ultimate, for some was Mega. But I had rented this a couple times at Blockbuster. Loved it even more than the original Rumble Arena. Didn't buy it for years and kind of held off for a while because Digimon Rumble Arena 2 on the GameCube is actually was actually pretty rare. Like, they only produce, like, 30,000 copies, I believe. The copies that I would find on Amazon were going for, like, $80, some $90. And finally, one day, I found a copy that was selling for, like, only $60. And I figured, this is probably the best deal you're ever going to find, so might as well buy it now. So I bought it, played it for a few hours when it came in. It's actually just as fun as I remember it. I thought I was going to be disappointed and find that, this is not as good as I remembered, but it's still a lot of fun. Obviously not as good as Super Smash Bros. Not the best fighting game out there, but if you're a hardcore Digimon fan, and if you like fighting games, and you want to play a Digimon fighter, this is the definitive Digimon fighting experience. Don't even bother with Digimon All-Star Rumble. That game pales deeply in comparison to this game. This one has more characters, more Digivolutions. This is the definitive Digimon fighting experience. It's also available on the Xbox and PS2. The PS2 version is much more common, so if you don't want to shell out like a bunch of money for a rare GameCube version, even though I would assume the GameCube version is probably the best, buy the PS2 version or the Xbox version. You can get it on those two consoles. Shrek 2 on the GameCube. I know a lot of you are thinking, Shrek 2, a movie game. That game must be a piece of shit. Well, I don't know. I had rented this at Blockbuster a couple times, and I had fun at the time. Like, I had a lot of fun with it. It's a lot like X-Men Legends, Marvel Ultimate Alliance. It had that type of four characters on the field, battling enemies, in the same kind of camera view as X-Men Legends and Marvel Ultimate Alliance, in that same vein. This copy I ordered off of Amazon, I think last year, or a couple years ago. It was sometime after I moved into my apartment. I have not gotten around to playing this. Hopefully it still holds up. Mario Superstar Baseball, the first of only two Mario Baseball games. I've never played the Wii sequel, Mario Super Sluggers, but I had a lot of fun with Mario Superstar Baseball. Worked really well. Especially liked that you got to play as, since, obviously there's 9 play characters to a team, so they had to have more they included much more Nintendo characters, including ones that you normally wouldn't find playable in a Mario Party or Mario Tennis or Mario Golf game. Like, you could even play as Goomba and Paragoombas. You could play as Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong. You could play as Monty Mold, Hammer Bro, just characters you would not find playable in other Mario games at the time. Definitely a great sports foray for Mario. The GameCube was a great generation for Mario sports games. Chibi Robo, this was kind of an odd game. I actually first learned about this game I think at a Target or a Walmart. Like, they had it set up, and I played it a little, and I'm like, ooh, this game is cool. And then I actually bought the game, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of like Toy Story if you really think about it. And there's this one superhero character that kind of reminds me of Buzz Lightyear. There's this one dinosaur that reminds me of Rex. The princess kind of reminds me of Bo Peep. A lot of these different toys that and animals that you can interact with. And then there's also the Egg Soldiers, which are a lot like the Green Army Men from Toy Story. It felt like Nintendo's answer to Toy Story, if you ask me. And then you all had all the different suits. And this was also kind of a time waster. Although you could fight enemies, you had the wrist blaster. I've never played the Park Patrol on the DS, and I know there was another one. There was a 3DS app with Chibi Robo, but I never played that either. But this was definitely loads of fun. A little weird, like my younger brother would always point that out whenever I played this. He's like, this game is so weird. But still a lot of fun. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. I had rented this twice at Blockbuster when this first came out. Didn't actually buy it until, I think around 2009, 2010. I bought it at a Play and Trade. When that was still open. My Play and Trade actually closed down in 2011. For those of you who don't know, which probably doesn't matter because most of you probably haven't seen my original GameStop rant. I mean, technically it was my second one. My original one's not on my channel anymore. Obviously, XD was a sequel to Colosseum. You had more Shadow Pokemon to capture. Obviously, you had the Shadow Lugia, the Pokemon that could never be purified. I don't think this is as good as Colosseum. I prefer Colosseum a little, just mostly for that initial wow factor. It's because XD recycled a lot of areas, which makes sense because it's a sequel, since it's a direct sequel, obviously. But it just didn't have that initial wow factor. I felt, I've seen this before. Of course, there were some new areas, like, obviously the final area, Citadark Isle, was incredible. Way better than Relium Tower. Star Fox Assault. Do not listen to what the haters tell you. This game is not a piece of shit, like people will lead you to believe. Sure, the on-foot missions aren't as fun as the space missions, the on-rail space missions like in Star Fox 64. But this one, I will say, is the best Star Fox game in the series. By far. The multiplayer in this, way better than Star Fox 64. The space battles themselves, way better than Star Fox 64. The storyline, way better than Star Fox 64, especially with the portrayal of Star Wolf. Star Wolf, they were total villains in Star Fox 64. Here, they were fleshed out more, they were more anti-heroic than anything, and they actually team up with Star Fox on several occasions, even in the final area, in the final level. Unfortunately, Star Fox Command kind of ruined it. They made them villains again in Command. But this was a great game. Spent hours on it. Initially rented it around the time after it came out. Beat it when I rented it. Got it for Christmas in 2006. Definitely one of my favorite GameCube games. This, even better than Star Fox 64. Don't listen to what the haters will tell you. Shadow the Hedgehog, another not very popular Sonic game. At the time, I liked it for what it was. It definitely was darker than necessary. The guns weren't necessary, but if you get past that, I think it's pretty decent. I understand why people don't like it, but I mean, I'd give it a try. I mean, it's probably not that much on Amazon or eBay or wherever. Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, one of my favorite games in the GameCube, probably my personal favorite actually, and actually my personal favorite Fire Emblem game. I had initially rented this in 2005 when the game had first come out, and then I got through like the first 10 chapters, but of course our rental expired, so like of course we had to bring it back, and then I never rented it again for whatever reason. But then I finally bought it at Play and Trade in 2009, I want to say. It's a shame that this and Radiant Dawn are the only console Fire Emblem games that have ever been released for the United States. Everything else has been handheld. I understand why, because Fire Emblem has generally, consistently been more successful on handhelds than on consoles. Obviously, the original one that was released here was on Game Boy Advance. Sacred Stones on Game Boy Advance, and then of course Awakening and Fates on the 3DS. But this was an incredible game. I've played through this game at least 3 times. Love it every time. I find something new to love about this game every time I play through it. Love all the characters. The Tellius Saga, which was this game, and its follow-up Radiant Dawn on the Wii. Probably the most developed story. Definitely had the most planning. Because, like, definitely at the very end of the game, there was some foreshadowing towards Radiant Dawn. So there was definitely a plan. The sequel was definitely planned. Like, this was really the prelude, and this was just the prelude to the even bigger battle in Radiant Dawn. But I still prefer this game for whatever reason. Probably because Radiant Dawn is a little unfair difficulty-wise in some places. My favorite Fire Emblem game by far, no game has topped it since, in my opinion. Although then again, I've never played any of the original Japan-only titles, and I've heard most of those are really good, so. Based on the cover art of this game, you would think this is Super Monkey Ball. But this is actually, I don't know if you can see this, this is actually Super Monkey Ball Adventure. See, my brother had rented this from Blockbuster a little bit after we had gotten the GameCube. Now my brother and I played it, we loved it, but we never bought it until around 2008. We went to GameStop one day. My brother decided to buy Super Monkey Ball, but instead of giving him Super Monkey Ball, of course, they give him Super Monkey Ball Adventure, which apparently, from what I've heard, was pretty bad in comparison to Super Monkey Ball. We never played Super Monkey Ball Adventure, and my brother never brought it back. So we're pretty much stuck with a Super Monkey Ball Adventure and a Super Monkey Ball case. So, Custom Robo. This was a game that I had never rented during the GameCube era. I bought this at Play and Trade several years after the Wii had already come out. And I instantly loved it. I regret it. Like, I was wondering, why did I never try this game out when the GameCube was still out? Fortunately, you can still always go back and play old games. It's not like you can't do it anymore. I completed the main game, never finished the post game, but I had a lot of fun with it. The robot combat was incredible. I loved the customization options. I never played Custom Robo Arena on the DS. And it's a shame that that Nintendo's never made another custom Robo game. Um, I hope they do make one someday, another new one someday, but I kind of doubt it at this point. Custom Robo was always a very niche franchise, even within Nintendo's franchise. It wasn't one of the big ones. Now this one, Star Wars Rogue Leader, Rogue Squadron 2, it was a launch title, but I never actually played this until last year. The original Rogue Squadron on the Nintendo 64, I bought it at the first MagFest I went to in 2014. Finally did a full playthrough last summer, and then I decided, I've completed the first one. Might as well check out the second one, because I had heard so many great things about the second one. This one is even better than the original Rogue Squadron. This is, I'm assuming, the best Rogue Squadron game in the Rogue Squadron trilogy. I've never played Rogue Squadron 3, although I actually ordered it on Amazon yesterday, so it should be coming in within the next couple weeks. And I've heard, like, with Rogue Squadron 3, the space missions, like the space battles, the vehicle missions, were as great as ever, but the on foot missions were really clunky, and you can tell just by looking at the gameplay how clunky they are. I mean, it's not even hiding it. But in terms of just the missions that are presented in this game, the single player missions that are presented in this game, just the single player, Rogue Squadron 2, I'm assuming, well, it's definitely even better than the original Rogue Squadron, probably better than Rogue Squadron 3, but definitely regret not played this while the GameCube was still out. But, I'm making up for lost time. Tales of Symphonia. This is another game that I did not originally play when it came out in 2004. I bought this on Amazon last year. Um, I've only played through like the first hour. I never played through more of it because, like, especially since right now, with school and everything else, RPGs are harder to get into, especially with in depth, especially ones with, like, where the storyline's really important. Um, but, like, from what I've played, the gameplay itself very fun. It's kind of a mix between real time and turn-based RPGs. Like, I mean, you don't have random encounters, but, like, you would touch an enemy, the scene would change, and now it's a battle arena, and you directly control at least one of your characters, and the other ones fight alongside you. And you can obviously switch between characters, but from what I've played, it's definitely a lot of fun. I would love to play through more of this at some point whenever I do find the time. But yeah, definitely pick this up if you don't already have this. And fun fact, this is one of the few GameCube games that takes more than one disc. Now, this is more two games in one game. Pac-Man Versus and Pac-Man World 2, two games in one. Actually, I just realized this is also two discs, but it's like two games packaged, two discs in one package, in one game case. I've played Pac-Man World 2 before. I had a lot of fun with it. I rented it once when the game had first come out. Pac-Man Versus I've never played, but at MagFest they do a Pac-Man Versus tournament every year. So, like, at each MagFest that I've gone to, I've met up with several of my fellow Lagfestians. For those of you who had watched Lagfest when that was a thing. My good friend Trail McSblazer and his younger brother Darth Dudicus, they compete in the Pac-Man Versus tournament every year. And it looks like a lot of fun. Like, I watched them play it. It just looks like so much fun. And I want to do my my collections. First, the Mega Man Anniversary Collection, which I bought at MagFest this year, almost a month ago now. I bought this with the intention of getting Keiji Inafune to sign it. For those of you who don't know, Keiji Inafune was at MagFest this year. He had a panel, and I was going to get this signed by him at his autograph session right after. Unfortunately, what happened was, like, as his panel was finishing up, like, a bunch of people just rushed off to the autograph section of the building. And obviously, once the panel was over, the rest of us went over there. And then we find out, oh, we're sorry, we're full capacity, we're past our limit. So yeah, that pissed me off. So I wasn't able to get this signed by Keiji Inafune, but still getting to see him, being in his presence, being in the presence of truly one of the biggest legends in the gaming world. That was just an incredible experience. Definitely the highlight of my MagFest experience this year. But yeah, I was actually playing through this earlier today. I was playing through the first Mega Man. I haven't beaten it, but still, I have played the first three Mega Man games before. Loved all of them. Well, the Mega Man series that I'm more partial to is Mega Man X, my favorite Mega Man series. Mega Man X Collection I ordered off of Amazon several years ago, like back in 2008. Um, it has Mega Man X's 1 through 6 as well as a bonus game called Mega Man Battle and Chase, which is kind of which is was initially not released here. It was released for the first time outside of Japan via the Mega Man X collection. Excuse me. Um, Out of the X games, 3 and 4 are my favorite. 1 and 2 are still are great. 5 is kind of meh. 6 is a piece of shit. Don't play Mega Man X6. I mean, it was supposed to end with 5, but then Capcom went behind Keiji Inafune's back and decided to make a cash cow out of Mega Man X and decided to make X6. They decided to make X6 just to make a quick buck. Clearly, they rushed it. I mean, you can tell by just the poor level design. But anyways, this isn't a rant about Mega Man X6. That's another video for another day. But anyways, a great collection. Probably my favorite collection I have on the console. The Sonic Mega Collection. I bought this at MagFest in 2014, the first year I went. I haven't played this a lot. Of course, I've played through the original Sonic the Hedgehog several times through this. I also have it on the original on Virtual Console, so I played it a bunch of times through there. Definitely a worthwhile. It has all the classic ones: 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles. It has Sonic 3D Blast, which isn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. I mean, it's still not great, but I mean, they even have Sonic Spinball, Doctor Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Um, I think and they even have Flicky's Adventure on there. But yeah, this is definitely a worthwhile pickup, whether you get this on the GameCube. Well, actually, this was originally a GameCube exclusive, and then there was Sonic Mega Collection Plus that was released on the PS2, and I think it was also on the Xbox. Correct me if I'm wrong, for those of you who would know. That had all the games that are already on here, plus all the Game Gear games. Sonic Gems Collection, bought it on Amazon. Didn't come with the original case, just this jewel case. I haven't played it yet, but the reason I got this was mostly for Sonic CD, because this is really the only way to get it, unless you already had. If you don't have a Sega Genesis and Sega CD, this is really the only other way you can play Sonic CD other than on PC. I think this also includes Vector Man. I'll put a list of all the games that are on here on this video. But yeah, this is also a worthwhile pickup. I also forgot about another game that I have. That's not a collection. Tony Hawk's Underground on the GameCube. I actually bought the PS2 version at MagFest this year. It's just for me personally. I always felt like Tony Hawk was best on PS2. Just the control scheme on that was a lot better. That's just my opinion. Feel free to disagree with me. So I've never played. My brother would play the game. My mom found this at Goodwill, so she bought it. Obviously, it was only like $4. You can tell by the Goodwill sticker. Like my mom would would find games at Goodwill, and she would just buy them because they were just so cheap, and she knew that my brother and I would probably play them. Games I used to own that I don't anymore. The first, obviously, I already talked about Pikmin 1, which I traded in because I didn't really appreciate Pikmin at the time. Another one is Star Fox Adventures. I bought it a little bit after it had come out. I bought it at Best Buy. I traded it in because I didn't really like adventures at the time. I had trouble figuring it out. It was too difficult for me at my age. I was never able to really appreciate it. Like I had, it was fun. It was definitely fun for what it was. I mean, Star Fox Adventures. I mean, it's not a bad game. It's just not a good Star Fox game. It's not fitting for Star Fox. NBA Street Volumes 1 and 2. Um, they were my brothers. As I've established before, my brother went through this phase, like, right after he discovered trading in games. Um, he he went through this phase where, like, whenever he was done playing through a game, whenever he felt like he had played through everything, he would trade it in. NBA Street Volumes 1 and 2 were two of those games. And even though they were his, I played them too. Like, they were two of the few. I'm not a sports fan. I don't play sports games. I don't play Madden or NBA 2K or any of that stuff. But I did play. I loved playing NBA Street, the NBA Street series. It was a lot like. It was a lot like NBA Jam, even though I've never played NBA Jam. Um, it was a lot of fun. I loved playing as the Street Legends. You had Stretch, you had Biggs, Bonafide, Biggie Littles, um, and these are just for the various games. These aren't the ones specific to 1 or 2. Bonafide and Stretch were the only two that crossed over between the first two. There was Takeshi, I think his name was Takaishi, and the first one he was out of the second one, and then they brought him back for the third one. But then there was then there were ones from the first one like Biggs. He was never brought back. There were a few others. But yeah, loads of fun. I loved Volume 2, especially since they held all the NBA legends like the 1996 version of Michael Jordan, the 1983 version of Michael Jordan, because this was in 2003 when Michael Jordan was still in the NBA before he retired. Um, you had Magic Johnson, Larry Bird was playable. Dr. J, Wilt Chamberlain was playable. All these NBA legends, like just the ones, just the legends in the NBA that everybody, all the huge basketball fans talk about all the time. Like all the major ones, at least all the major ones were in there. Oh, Power Rangers Dino Thunder. That game was bad. You couldn't even play as the Rangers. You just played as the Zords, which was kind of cool. Um, but it's just the game. I mean, the game. I mean, it was totally playable. It's just like it's not a good Power Rangers game. You can't actually play as the Rangers. You just play as the Zords. You fight these weird monsters. What was cool about it was like you didn't just have the Dino Thunder Zords. You had your 6 Dino Thunder Zords. You had the 3 main ones: the red T Rex, the blue Triceratops, and yellow Pterodactyl. And you had 3 of the auxiliary Zords in the form of the Patchy Zord, the Dimetro Zord, and the Parazord. Like you also had the 6 Ninja Storm Zords and the Hawk, the Dolphin, the Yellow Lion, the Navy Beetle, Crimson Insectoid, the Samurai Star Megazord, and then you had the 6 main Wild Force Zords: the Red Lion, Yellow Eagle, Blue Shark, Black Bison, White Tiger, Silver Wolf. So that was cool. You had the unlockable Wild Force level. You had 2 Ninja Storm levels, and then you had the various Dino Thunder levels. But still, it's like you only get to play as the Zords. You don't actually get to play as the Rangers. Honestly, we've never had a great Power Rangers game since Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie on Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, which, by the way, are actually 2 completely different games. They're not just ports of each other. Lego Star Wars, the video game, and Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. I originally owned the first Lego Star Wars on PS2. What happened was I lost my original PS2 copy somewhere around the house. So I replaced it with the GameCube version. And then when Lego Star Wars 2 came out, I traded in the GameCube version. And then when Complete Saga came out, I gave away Lego Star Wars 2 to one of my best friends. Now, the ironic thing was I eventually found my PS2 copy of Lego Star Wars, and of course, since I had Complete Saga at that point, which was pretty much both the first and the second ones, plus a bunch of bonus characters, some bonus levels. I was like, there's no point in keeping this, so I traded that in. Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. Um, I was never real. I never really like. I played it, but I never really got into it. Mario Golf is not the most exciting series. I mean, from what I can remember, it was fun, but it wasn't really anything special to my memory. It was pretty much just Mario Tennis on the game. I mean, Mario Golf on the GameCube.